Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, we're going to do what they said could not be done. We are going to install ESXI version 6.7 on this Dell server, R10 server behind me. Now, supposedly, that Dell has an unsupported couple of processors in there, and they're not on the compatibility list, but we're going to do it anyway. And I find it odd that they're not on the compatibility list because Dell makes an image for the Dell R710 that has ESXI 6.7. So let's get started with the install without further ado. Oh, you're probably wondering who that is sitting behind me. I found this man wandering around the streets outside of Unky Joe's Playhouse, and I felt sorry for him and invited him in for a cup of coffee. And now he has evidently fallen asleep or something, and so I'm just going to leave him alone. And yeah, he is a little strange. So what are we going to need? We're going to need a couple of these. 2 USB keys. Ooh, look. Oh, sorry, YouTube, I didn't mean to flip you off. So we have one USB key to install VMware onto, and we're going to run VMware off of here. Now the beauty of VMware is it'll load onto this key, and then it will load into memory every time it boots up, and then it does not read or write from the key after that. It just preserves everything in memory. And then I have this other USB key. It's formatted with ESXi 6.7, and we're going to install this on that Dell right here behind me that supposedly has unsupported processors. I'm not really clear on that. I've read a bunch of articles on it. They say the processors are unsupported, but you'll see we're not going to have any trouble installing this. So make sure you have these two items ready to go before you do your installation. You're going to need them. So now, conversely, if you wanted to, you could install it onto a hard drive onto that server, but I want to just use the USB key because I already have a Windows server installed on there, and I want to be able to dual boot between them. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom install USB. I have an 8 gig disk out there, USB key, ready to go. And the image I'm going to select is the one on my D drive, and that is the VMware VMvisor installer Dell EMC Customize A01 ISO. I'm going to select that. Dell has created a 6.7 ISO with all the drivers embedded in it. I'm going to use that over the VMware one just to be safe, just to make sure we have all the drivers that are needed. So I go ahead and select that, and it's going to automatically choose how to format that USB key. I'll go ahead and click on Start, tell it OK, and it'll go out, format it, and we'll get it ready, and then we will take that drive, that USB key out, put it into the Dell, and then we will try and boot off of the Dell and boot into that version of ESXi and install it. Alright, so the key has been created and we should be good to go. So now we can move over to the Dell and go ahead and boot off of this USB key and get the install going. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is disconnect the power from this Dell. So I'm going to come back here to the power supply, and I'm going to unplug both power supplies. Now you want to come to the front of the Dell and hold the button in for about 10 seconds just to discharge any power that might be left in the machine. Okay. So now we have our 2 USB keys, we have our install USB, and then we have our installer USB. So the nice thing about these Dells and these IBMs is that they give us a place inside. Right here, we can either plug in an SD card, and that does require an adapter, or we can plug a USB right in here, internal USB, that will ESXi will boot off of. So we've got that installed now, so we'll go ahead and put the cover back on. We're good, and then I'm going to put the installer USB plug that into the front of the unit. Alright, and now we'll come back around to the back, get our power plugged back in. And then we need to give the iDRAC controller about 5 minutes to boot up before we try to get into it. So we have our key that we're going to install onto inside the server. We have the installation key there, and we're waiting for the iDRAC to power back up. So we're in good shape. All right, so we're back over at the Dell, and we're going to go ahead and power that unit on. And then be ready. We'll need to press the F11 key in order to enter the BIOS boot menu. Now, I keep these units, both of these Dells and the IBM, I keep them in BIOS boot mode. I've tried using them in UEFI, and I just cannot get them to boot reliably off of a USB key in UEFI mode, no matter how I format the USB key. So I've just been finding it easier to keep them in BIOS boot mode, and we're not really losing anything. These are 11-year-old servers, so they work fine. They work fine with the ESXi, and they work fine with Windows Server in BIOS boot mode. So we'll wait for the Dell to go through its configuration and boot up. We're going to press the F11 key to enter the BIOS boot manager. Now you'll also probably notice that I am using VMware Workstation. I have switched over from the what the hell's the name of the thank you assistant. I've moved over from VirtualBox into VMware Workstation. Just works better for my needs, gives me more control. Now I've also replaced the HBA controller in here. I went from a Dell H700 to an H200 just so I could have the drives pass through. I don't need the features of the H700. Now, I did not need to flash this card in IT mode either. It just worked right out of the box. So, and it says IR. I don't know what that means, but it is in IT mode. It just passes the disk through. I verified that SMART and everything else passes through that disk as well. Alright, so we should be coming up on the BIOS boot menu. We'll select the hard drive, and then we'll choose the front USB key. Hit enter, and you'll see this is the Dell EMC ESXi custom A9922-A01 installer. We're going to boot from that. Alright, so we're at the installation screen now, and it warns you VMware it installs on most systems, but is only systems on VMware's compatibility guide are supported. That's alright, we're in a lab environment, don't really care. So I'll hit enter to continue, and then I need to hit F11 to accept the EULA. Now what it's going to do is scan for available devices to install VMware onto. And you have to be kind of careful at this point because you don't want to select a hard drive, especially since I already have Windows installed on this server. I want to make sure that I only select my USB key. So we're going to scroll down through all these devices, and then we'll see that we have a Kingston DT101G2. This is the disk I booted off of, the U disk, 7.5 gig. And this is the one I want to install onto, is the internal USB key. So I'll go ahead and hit enter to continue and accept the US defaults. We'll go ahead and enter a root password, make this secure, and it has to meet complexity guidelines, so go ahead and hit enter after I've entered that. Now it's warning us. Now, a lot of people say this is where they get the purple screen of death and the install won't go any further. Now, all it's telling me is the CPU in this host may not be supported in future ESXi releases, but it mentions nothing about it not being compatible with this version. So, and Dell makes an image for this Dell R710 based on ESXI 6.7. So I'm going to assume they know what they're talking about. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to continue and then F11 to install. And we'll let this go ahead and install, and we'll come back when something interesting happens. So it appears that we are successful. It warns us about ESXI being in evaluation mode and to remove the installation media before rebooting. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here, and we will let the server reboot and see if it comes up. Now sometimes what I have to do after installing ESXI, because I've done this many times before I did the video, was that I will need to actually power down the server, remove the install key, and in order for it to boot off the internal one. But we'll go ahead and do that here in a minute. But I want to make sure that ESXI, the install, finishes and that we're in restart mode. And as you can see, we've got a no signal again. So I will go ahead and wait till it comes up to the first screen right here, and then I will go ahead and power off the system. Alright, and if my assistant will be so kind as to remove the USB key, we will move on with the installation. Are we good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, so I've now removed the USB installation key, and we're going to go ahead and power the machine on again. Tell it yes. And this time we'll hit the F11 key and we'll boot off the internal USB key where we have installed ESXI and see if we have some success. Now you hear the fans ramping up behind me. That is because I never let it do an actual power cycle. So the iDRAC controller goes through and spins up all the fans to make sure they're working properly. So that's why you'll hear it. It's a little noisier than usual. It's calming down now. So I'm going to hit the F11 key here again to make sure we enter the BIOS boot manager. If I don't do that, it would boot directly into Windows because that is the assigned default boot device. And again, like I said earlier, I did replace the H700 PERC controller that was in this Dell with an H200. I got this off of eBay. Oh my goodness, about a year ago. I think I paid 20 or 30 bucks for it. I don't know that it's flashed into IT mode, but it works like it's in IT mode. It passes the disk through. You won't be seeing that on ESXI because we're not going to be using the internal drives, but see, it just kind of passes the disk through, and I have a plethora of different disks in this unit. There is the 10 gig Mellanox card. I have ordered a new dual Mellanox card for the new IBM that NC Medic donated, and that'll be the hub for the other two servers to connect to, so we'll have 10 gig on our back plane. So I'm going to come down and select normal hard disk, or I'm going to come down and select hard disk C, and then the internal USB DT101G2. Hit the enter key and it should start booting ESXI. Now this is the custom image for Dell, so it will load all the necessary drivers and whatnot. And then what we need to do is we'll need to configure the management interface to get the right IP address so that we can connect to it moving forward. And we should see that it'll come up and say it's a customized image for the Dell. Yeah, VMware build 8169922. It sees it's on a Dell PowerEdge R710. It's got two Intel Xeon E5640 CPUs. I don't know that we're going to be replacing these moving forward, but perhaps. Another video to look forward to. Alright, so here we go. We now have ESXI booted up, but we need to customize the settings and get the right IP address in there, etc. So we're going to we're still in the console screen through the iDRAC controller, so we're going to hit F2, and it will prompt us to enter our root password. See if I can remember mine. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to modify the management interface. So we're going to come down to Configure Management Network, hit Enter. And we're going to go to the IPv4 configuration, hit Enter. And right now it's using a dynamic IPv4. We're going to set a static. And then we're going to come down and enter 192.168.5.6 is what I want for this unit. Hit Enter. Come down to our DNS configuration, and we're going to change our host name to ESXI-Dell. Hit Enter. Now it should have figured out the mcs.local DNS suffix by itself. It got that from the DNS server. So now all of our options have been set, so I can just press escape to exit. And it should tell us, do you want to apply changes or restart the management network? And I'm going to hit Y for yes. Then it should go back to the, you'll see now we have an IP address of 5.6. And we should be good to go. And that's all there is to installing it. And now we want to go out and do some configuration. We're going to do the rest of that through a browser. Alright, so we've gone to the IP address up here, 5.6, that we set up for the ESXi. Now I'm going to go ahead and log in as a root and enter our super secret password. Click the login button. And I'm not going to join the VMware right now, nor am I going to add a password. Now, you will see we're on version 6.7 build 8169922, and you'll see the image profile is customized for a Dell, so it should have all the drivers in there, etc. Now, one of the first things I want to do is I want to get the time, make sure our time is synced properly. So I'm going to go up here to Manage, and I'm going to go to Time and Date. I'm going to go to Edit Settings. On the network time protocol, I'm going to have it start and stop with the host. That is, the host is this machine. And then I'm going to enter the IP address of my domain controller, which is also my time server on my network. I'm using Active Directory. We click on Save. And then on Actions, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to NTP Service, and I'm going to Start. And then I'm going to refresh. And now you see it sets my clock to UTC time. It's enabled, it's running, etc. Let's come up back to the host, and you'll see now my time is configured correctly and is synced. That's very important. Alright, so we're going to end today's video right there. I don't know if you can hear, but I'm suffering from a horrible head cold. At least I think it's a head cold. I hope it's not the flu, but I had a horrible night last night. Didn't sleep for nothing. And it's funny how your mind works. All my mind did was think about VMware and the Dell, and I'd sleep for 20-30 minutes and wake up, and then I'd sleep for, it's a pain in the butt. Anyway, I hate being sick. Anyway, we're going to end the video right there. Now, in the next video, what we'll do is we'll cover creating an iSCSI share on the Synology NAS and then sharing that with VMware. And then once we get that done, then we'll try to install vSphere 6.7. Another thing they say is not supported on these Dells with this processor in there. And it's just kind of a proof of concept. I want to prove to y'all that it can be done, so that's why we're doing it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. We hope you found it entertaining and informative, if not a little weird at the same time. Please smash the like button, leave your comments in the comment section. If you want to donate, we take PayPal and Patreon if you're so inclined. And please don't forget that we'll see you on the other side.